Hello. Thank you for joining us for another episode of Shining Light on Shadows, a candid conversation about mental health. Our guest for episode 16 is Claire Filipek. She'll be talking about the highs and lows of managing bipolar 1 disorder. We're live on Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, YouTube, Instagram, and my website. We're actually live on two Facebook channels, mine and Dawn's, and two Instagram channels, both mine and Dawn. So thank you to everyone, particularly if you're watching the replay because you're catching the opening scenes. Appreciate you taking the time to come back and watch the show. Dawn, episode 16? Can you believe
Crazy.
that?
Absolutely crazy. They've been so good. They've been so good. Our
They
guests are
have.
amazing.
We started this in February, and it really has just been so meaningful. Being able to bring on people who have had personal challenges they've dealt with. We've had a few therapists on as well, and as folks will see with today's guest, I still am touched that Claire reached out to us early on and asked if she could be on the show, asked if she could tell her story. As you know, Claire it lives two houses up from my mom in Hastings on Hudson, New York. Her mom was actually a guest last week, 2 weeks ago on our show. So this is a family month in terms of September of folks coming on. But we certainly encourage people, if you're watching, let us know where you're watching from. And if you're watching on Facebook, in particular, make sure you press play so that if you leave a comment, we will see it. Wanted to give a quick hello to my mom, who's watching from Hastings on Hudson. Thanks, Mom. My mom has been a big supporter of the show, and I know that Claire and her mom Rochelle have become very close with my mom, neighbors. They treat her like family. So I certainly appreciate that. Speaking of family, Dawn, you want to introduce our next person commenting?
Yes, this is my husband, and he is on the other side of the wall on the couch, and a huge supporter and a former guest.
Absolutely, he was our third guest, if I remember correctly. And Jim and Dawn. This was before you got married. Actually, you were still engaged. It was a great show where he's a complete introvert. You're a complete extrovert, and
Yep.
You make it work, which is
We do.
good. What's the
We do.
secret, Dawn, for making it work?
I think I bring him out into the introverted or extroverted world, and he brings me into his introverted world, and it's a really nice balance.
That's good. And speaking of home, Kate is watching from downstairs. Remind us again who Kate is.
Kate is my best friend and our landlady, and so we rent the space in her upper duplex.
Absolutely. And I had a chance to meet her when I came out to Milwaukee about a year and a half ago as well. Kate says that she's watching from downstairs, so anxious to learn from Claire, our guest, Claire Filipek. She's going to be talking about her experience with bipolar. And Nick Marin is watching as well from Alexandria, Virginia. He is someone I know through our Mount Vernon Unitarian Community Church. So thank you, Nick. I know you've watched several of these episodes, so I really appreciate you taking the time to join us. As mentioned earlier, that last 2 weeks ago, our guest was Claire's mom, Rochelle, Dr. Rochelle Kritzer. In fact, she herself is a 30-year worked for 30 years as a school psychologist. And was talking about the importance of community support or in groups like NAMI, etc. So Don, I'd like to just to remind folks and kind of be as a bridge from last episode, I want to play a little clip from
Great.
Rochelle's show. So here is Dr. Rochelle Kritzer.
For anyone who's, struggling with mental health issues, either for themselves or for their family, to know that they're not alone and that there is support out there for them. I think as human beings, we have a tendency sometimes to, push negative thoughts or experiences away and to not deal with them or to blame ourselves or blame others. Why me? Why did this happen to me or my family? And that's a lot of wasted energy. I think that when we are able to seek out support, we can see that challenges can be embraced, that there can be meaning in the journey. The destination, it's not really about the destination, it's about the journey. And if you reach out, you'll see that there are a lot of people on that path with you. And through these hard times, you can develop the skill of resilience. Resilience is only something you develop with practice. So you do have to go through it to get to the other side and build that strength. The other thing, I just want to quote what Neil and Don say on a lot of these shows, is to give grace to yourself and others around you. Practice self-care, positive energy, and support. And just know you're not going it alone, and that a quality life is possible. You can build a life worth living, step by step. And I just want to thank Neil and Don and everybody in this community. I think you're really doing a very big service by opening up all of these conversations and allowing people to see that mental health issues, anxiety, depression, that really affects all of us. But we can all move forward together.
That was Rochelle from 2 weeks ago. We certainly appreciate having her on the show and sharing those tips. And I know one of the things I mentioned last week, Dawn, we talked about the importance of community support. This show is my community support. I didn't talk about mental health. I didn't talk about my own mental health issues, or even the fact that I saw a therapist before we launched this show. And I want to thank you for all the support you've given me over the years, with various things, and for the folks who are watching, who have been our support. It means a lot. It really does.
Absolutely.
So with that, let's go ahead and pull up Claire's blog post. She wrote about coming to terms with and managing bipolar 1 disorder. The quote from that: "I am a 31-year-old graduate student studying computer science education, and I also have bipolar 1 disorder. I think it is important to note that any person dealing with a mental illness is so much more than just their illness." Couldn't agree more. Claire, welcome to the show.
Hi, happy to be on. Hi, Neil. Hi, Dawn. Hi, everyone watching from home. Just thank you so much, firstly, for having me on your show. I did reach out a few months ago. I think it's a great service that you and your show do to destigmatize and just have open and real conversations about mental illness and trauma and just the whole umbrella that mental illness covers. And today, hopefully I can shed some light on bipolar 1 disorder and what it's like for me personally dealing with it, because again, it's a spectrum and every individual is unique, and disorders can display in many different ways. But hopefully I can shed light on, what it's been like for me, what has helped me, whether it's therapy, psychiatry, and when, needed, in an immediate intensive care of a psychiatric hospitalization, which I think all of these things definitely have their own stigmas attached to them for sure. But really, just thank you for giving me this platform.
Claire, I just want to. I think it's huge. I think it's a big deal. in my mind at least, mental health, obviously, there's a whole range of ways that people can struggle with mental health challenges or find themselves in different situations. And you never want to get into that conversation of equivalencies and something's more important than another, or something's, someone's worse off, etc. But at least in my mind, I think there's a qualitative. I think there's a argument to be made that what I suffer from, what I struggle with, anxiety, occasional depression, is different qualitatively than what you have suffered from, just from and struggled with, just from from looking at what kind of treatment you've received, right? Inpatient care, hospitalization, and so for you to be able to share your story, your truth, for something that at least I perceive as much more significant, is so special and so appreciative. It's great that you're willing to put it out there.
Definitely. And I think for a long time, like especially the topic of hospitalization to me felt there was a lot of shame attached to it, right? Like, oh, how could that have just happened to me? Like, especially the first hospitalization I received, was like, how can I live a normal life after this? Like, and then I, put on my boots and went out and worked and had, a good string where I wasn't hospitalized until unfortunately I, did have to happen again. But I think that there's a lot that's unspoken about. I think it's interesting though. I remember once there was like a party game I was playing where everyone was telling a little secret, and I was like, my secret is I hope that I'm never hospitalized again. And someone vocalized like, oh, I actually went to a hospital because I needed some food and like fresh clothes, and like I was in a mental psych ward, and it helped me greatly for X, Y, and Z. And this is kind of off topic, and that could be its own conversation itself. But I think I really wanted to, just to kind of jump back and kind of refocus, I really wanted to come on here because one of the manic episodes that led to me being hospitalized for me felt very public on Facebook and other social media platforms, where I kind of was posting in a manic like fury, just this and that. And like, for me, sometimes my manic episodes tend to be like psychotic breaks, almost breaks from reality, where maybe like I believe like not only that this grandiose like grandiosity and like fury of ideas floating through my head, and that I'm like the the head center of the universe, but maybe even that those around me are in on it or are actors, and it's all a big like show that we're putting on. Like they're all different versions of this that have happened. I've really had like 3 major manic episodes. One in 2015 was my first one, and in that one I left my apartment. I was living in the West Village at the time. I had my keys in my wallet and my phone and my wallet, and I like threw it all in the garbage. I went to a police station and threw a chair, and then I was hospitalized from there. And I went to Bellevue, and again, I'm believing everyone are actors around me. So when I, the psych meds kind of kicked in, and I realized like, no, this is reality. It was kind of like, oh my gosh, what just happened? This happened near, I was going to school visual arts, SVA at the time. It's happened near my school. What is everyone going to think of me? How can I ever go back and live a normal life? I think it's something that has always kind of been echoed. Like, I just want normalcy. And how, again, this all happened very publicly on social media. How is this going to be perceived by others? I think, like many others out there, I do, care about what others think of me. And I want, to be known as myself, not in a manic state. And I think it, if you look at the silver lining of things, is it really pushed me forward to really be an advocate for myself, and to post on social media when I was in my right mind, to kind of take back the narrative, and to be like, yes, this happened. And it like, I apologize. It wasn't me, but it was me. And yeah, I think that it's just really powerful when you can talk from a place of like your truth. And I think for the most part, people were receptive. And if I lost some followers, on social media, I lost some followers, but I would rather, be truthful and honest and, share and shed light like this shining light on shadows does for many out there. And yeah, sorry, I'm also unused to this platform, so I hope I'm not rambling too much. Okay.
You're
You're doing
fine.
great.
All right,
You're
thank
doing
you.
great.
Thank you. Yeah. So again, like I said, I have had 3 kind of major manic episodes, and some part of my disorder is there's the highs and the lows, right? So there's also I've had depressive episodes, which have also landed me in psych hospitals as well. And I think it's kind of like cyclical for me. So it's kind of like I'll go from this really high, how could this have happened? I ruined my life. So then I get really depressed. And then it's almost like I bounce out of that and I'm like, oh, I need to show everyone I'm doing okay. And I put on, my best outfit and I'll like post some social media things where I'm like, oh yeah, I'm like living my best life, which in the past, historically, I've done that. I think more recently I've been more real about it. And, to differing results, some people are like, maybe I'm seen as an overshare maybe on social media, but I'd rather again live my truth and like be real about what's going on. And not kind of I think social media can so often just be like a highlight reel of like this is like everything's going great in my life. I'm married, I had a baby, this and that. And I think that sometimes we're comparing our lowest moments to other people's highlights reel. And I like to be kind of a face of reality and be like, hey, I'm having a really tough week. Like this past week, I like hurt a muscle in my back. I was kind of laid out for the week. It really sucked. It did hurt my mental health a little bit. Yes, I'm going to go to therapy tomorrow. I'll definitely be talking with her about this. And I'm taking my psych meds. If it got really bad, I would definitely be doing a diary card, for example, or, checking in with like my support group, which I'm really lucky to have. I know my mom was on this very show last week and talked about support groups. And I do consider my mom to be part of my support network, which I'm really, again, grateful to have. I think without the support of my family and some close friends, I think my cycles might have been even worse than they were, this up and down manic depressive episodes. And I'm just hoping to stay stable, remain stable. And again, this can look different for other people who are dealing with bipolar disorder. I'm not going to go into like what specific medications I'm on, for example, because I think that can really be different chemistry wise per person. And just
Sure.
because, like, for example, like I gained a lot of weight on one of the medications I was taking, and it was really unfortunate. Like someone else could be on that same medication, it could help them exponentially. And like they should stay on that, not just because of my word chain. I think, yeah. I
So
think
being
trying to
the
find a stopping
queen of
point.
being the queen of oversharing on Facebook, I don't think I'm an oversharer, but I've been told that I'm an oversharer. So I can like totally relate to that. But I really think that it's important that we talk about the whole Facebook thing. And you talked a lot in our pre-meeting about Facebook. Could you share just a little bit more about how Facebook can be both a blessing and a curse for you?
For sure. Yeah, definitely. I think blessing wise, it really, again, it's a social network. It connects us all. It's where people are watching us right now. Networks also like LinkedIn for work and like Twitter or X, all have their different functions. I think that for me, it unfortunately led to like a space where I just like had this opening to just like release this negative energy when I was especially going through a manic episode. And some of it was targeted at my family members, which was very unfortunate and did, ruin some relationships with some like relatives that hopefully one day I believe if we met again in person and could kind of hash it out or have a real conversation, that things could be worked out. But yeah, it definitely has been since that 2015 episode, since I talked with some of my relatives. Since then there have been a few relatives that have understood what happened, and like I've been able to kind of really discuss like that really wasn't me and that was not my intention. And if I was in my right mind, XYZ, or if I could take that back, I would have not like cursed you on social media, for example, or said this negative thing or blamed you for this. Like that's just not in my heart of all hearts what I believe or the reality of the situation. Yeah. And I think it's also really unfortunate. I think I would have deleted my Facebook really sooner had it not been a platform that I also use to connect with my immediate family. We have like a family phone call once a week over Messenger, and that's become like a way for us to connect. And so I just wanted to leave that avenue open for that. Because for a while I was like, it was really hard for me to even go back and look at my Facebook. I think since then I've really made a point of putting positivity, what, you know, when it feels authentic, and like sharing my art. I'm an artist, so I paint and I draw. So a lot of that has floated to the surface of my feed. But if I really had to scroll back or maybe search the wrong topic or right topic, I could find some of these old things. And I think it would be kind of honestly triggering because I haven't deleted all of them because some of them were really hard to look at just because like there are things I've pushed out of those episodes. I mean, I remember for the most part, like what happened, or people will tell me like this happened, or like I'll see like, for example, someone will be talking about something or something can pop up that will trigger like, oh my gosh, when I was in 2015, when I like was in Bellevue Hospital, like there were a lot of scary movies on the TV. So like for a while I couldn't watch like horror films because it would remind me of like being hospitalized and coming to terms with like, these aren't actors around me, these are real people. And so, yeah, I hope that was a good answer to your question.
It was an excellent
I think
answer.
another thing we did talk about, and this kind of maybe will link back to your blog post on, was oh no, it left my head. Was basically that like the oversharing thing. Like I now do post like I've had people in my real life be like, are you okay, after they'll see my post. And I'll be like, yeah, I just want to, I actually shared that and I felt much better, and I think something that those episodes really led me to was to being more open on social media, or being more real, and being like, and also using it as a way to take back the narrative and back ownership of the situation that I didn't have control at that time, but like now I do. So how can I use that control to kind of maybe help destigmatize, help understanding of what was going on. And if I could go back in time and change things, I could, but that's just not the reality of the situation. There's only moving forward, and I think our true selves like will be revealed, because that's just like you can't like hide from it. So I think at the end of the day, like people, I hope, will realize like my true meaning and what I stand for, and hopefully, like for example, those relatives that I'm no longer speaking with, like like things like that can kind of be remedied, with time and space.
Claire, if I may, I do want to say there's a comment from my mom that I want to pull up because I know she's a big fan of yours. She said you motivate others to talk about their psychiatric episodes because of your upfront talk about your past. You're brave and you're educating others. So you should know that. And I know that she's a big fan of your art. I know she has a piece at home that you'd given her. Can I show a little bit of your art from your Facebook page from recent
You may,
posts?
yes. Go for it.
Particularly Washington State, because I lived there for 15 years. That's Hurricane Ridge. And
that's beautiful.
See if I can make that any bigger.
I have a fear of heights, so this was as much as I could do at Hurricane Ridge. My parents and my brother hiked, and I stood there. I just drew, but that felt good.
and then
beautiful.
Right, so you're drawing. I love the fact that you're able to hold it up and show kind of what your view was.
Yeah, I love doing that, like in place drawing, and then like getting, like you said, the view as well.
Yeah, and these are just some of your drawings from that trip. There was also these Halloween Dia de los Muertos. It looks like.
Correct. That is my most recent Halloween creation. I have another pumpkin that I'm trying to formulate the next design for.
right?
But
And
thank
then
you.
you had an art show as well.
Yeah, I was in an art show, and anyone can follow me. This is my public page, Claire Filz, Filz, if you're interested. I also do take commissions, but my painting is the one in the center with the woman holding the plants.
which is just great, just
Thank
absolutely
you.
great. More of that, please. More of that.
Yes, thank you.
I will say that, one of the things that that I was thinking about. So let's Dawn, because you wrote about this in your blog post. I mean, this is very much what you covered, right? Posting all of my feelings on social media is very intentional. We probably all do a pretty good job of wearing that mask that says we are okay when deep down we really aren't. The mask is a wall we use to protect our jobs, our families, our friends, and our lives. Can you speak a little bit more about that and the
Yeah,
mask?
for sure, for sure. Yeah, I made an intentional move probably 10 years ago to not just highlight all of the wonderful, fantastic things that happen in my life, but to share when things are not going well, um and what that feels like, and it was very intentional. When I got a divorce, um people were shocked, absolutely shocked. And they were shocked because a lot of what I had posted about my family life was like all the spectacular things, right? And everyone was like, "Oh, but you looked so happy," and we were happy for the most part, but it doesn't show the reality, I think, of real life. And so for me, it's really important when I'm having a bad day or I'm having a bad week. In fact, I think, Neil, you saw this week alone, I shared on Facebook that I am really in limbo right now with a bunch of things in my life. And that's a really big challenge for me. I'm somebody who likes to know the answers. Like, I want to know what the situation is and what the resolution is. If it's good or if it's bad, I just want to know. So I think that yeah, that's something that I do on Facebook quite often. And every once in a while, someone will reach out to me and say, "Hey, you know what? I was feeling really crappy this week too, and I felt very validated that you said something about it." So
I I was going to say earlier, and I didn't want to make light of it, but earlier when Claire was talking about oversharing on Facebook and the criticism she gets sometimes, I really was wondering whether you had learned ventriloquism over the last 2 weeks, and because
seriously,
it was exact. I mean, it could have been coming from your mouth exactly. Like
yeah,
what she was saying is exactly what you've said and what you've talked about in the past.
yep,
And that's and you've done that. You've talked about being authentic and just putting it all out there, good or bad. But this is who you are. This is what you're feeling. Whether you're talking about your day, whether you're talking about your mom, who I know you miss terribly, whether it's your house, whatever your feelings are, they're all there. I think my thought on that, and it was interesting that this became got into a social media discussion. um I have not gone there yet. So as much as we've talked on the show, I mean, I still feel like I'm taking baby steps, right? So I go back to thinking about June of this year when I had a difficult few weeks. I was able to share that I was having challenges with an email list. We have an email list for this show and an email list for the Sunday New York Times read along, and I got incredible support sending it out to that group and letting people know that I was struggling. I think at that time I did actually put that on Facebook at the time, but I'll go back to last week right before leaving for a road trip for work. Sunday night, I just shut down. Like I had a list of things I had to do, and I just got overwhelmed and couldn't do anything. So I'm still struggling with that, Dawn and Claire, both what you've been able to do in terms of talking about where you're at. I'm still working on that myself.
Yeah.
Still struggling.
Kate has a really good question if you
Yeah,
want to pull
sure.
it up.
Sure.
She says, thank you for explaining some of your manic episodes. Wondering if you ever had experiences with not remembering some of your actions during those episodes.
Yeah, that is a great question. And I think personally, I do have experience with not remembering everything that happened. I think that's a combination of like pushing away some of that, like some of it was very traumatic and very negative. And so like my brain, I think just to, like kind of brace itself or deal with it, kind of pushes out some of what happened. I think some of it I was in kind of a psychotic break like state. So yeah, it's like for example, during one of the episodes or during a few of the episodes, I had smartphones during all those times. And so I really thought like for me, it didn't manifest as like delusions as in like I'm hallucinating or I'm hearing things audible. It was more like I think my phone is communicating with me through like autocorrect or through an algorithm. Like this YouTube thing is being recommended for a reason. Like it says, this is what ADHD is. I must have ADHD. Like I would believe things during that episode, like things like that. I was making these connections that were there, but they really weren't there. Or like my Pandora radio, like the song was telling me a certain thing, like it meant something to me. So would I, for example, like listen to like I've been in a lot of therapy since then. So for example, like I can listen to the same playlist I might have listened to during that episode and not be triggered by a song. But I might, like there's this song Prayer by Kesha, and like I have to change it every time that comes up because like that meant something to me during that time, and that like really stuck with me. So I think it's like some things I remember very vividly and like stick with me to this day. Some things my brain just out of like recovery has like pushed away, and some I probably just will never maybe remember. I think is my answer to that question.
Sure.
Great.
Sure.
Yeah.
Want to say a quick hello to my sister who's watching from Bellevue. And as I know, you all, I just my perception of it, and your mom reminded me, you all moved in when I was a senior in high school. So
Wow.
I said hi to you. I don't even want to think about how old you were, Claire. I'm not going to do the math. Don't worry. But your mom still remembers how I jumped out of the car to welcome you all to the neighborhood. But of course, I went on to college and then moved away, and really Amy was home for another several years, and then went to school in New York. So I know she got to know you much better, and developed a stronger relationship. And she's also now with your brother in Seattle, which is kind of cool.
Yeah, it's interesting how a small world it is sometimes,
Right.
and that and it's great that we've all been able to remain connected.
Dawn, my mom thanks you for sharing about your experience, sharing your experience in general about social media. And Kate, responded, Claire, saying that was very helpful, what you said. So thank you. Thank you so much. Really appreciate it. My mom says that you went through a difficult journey, but you did very well. You've progressed, and she's proud of you, which
so
is
sweet.
Always great to hear. Always great to hear.
Well, I still have the floor. I might share. I have this book beside me of one of my bipolar idols. Her name is Maria Bamford. Let's see if I can unblur some of it.
Yeah.
It says Maria Bamford at the top. There we go. Okay, and her latest book is called Sure, I'll Join Your Cult. And it's about a memoir of mental illness and the quest to belong anywhere. And Maria is a comedian who also suffers with bipolar disorder. And I think it's really important to like when you have a disorder like this bipolar, whether or depression, major depression, anxiety disorder, to kind of find, your people and people who have the same illness and are doing like who are thriving or surviving with it, and to learn from them and to pick up on. So Maria is really someone special to me. I've seen her live twice, once with my brother Matthew, who's in Seattle, And I went to her book signing, and I got to actually have a little conversation with her. And I had just recently gotten out of a hospital, and she wrote, congrats, Claire, on being out, which means a lot to me. But then she was sure to be like, but if you have to go back in, like, it's going to be okay. Like, she was just like a sweetheart. And because I think I was like, I'm out, I'm never going back, and she was like, but like, if you need the help, you need the help. And I think that was great advice as well. And she's just so funny. Her brand of comedy is like very unique. And yeah, just definitely an idol of mine. So I just wanted to kind of share a little tidbit of light. I think sometimes like we need some levity, and like this can all sound so dark and harsh and like, but there's light out there. There are the silver linings, and that's not to like be like, oh, every single illness needs a silver lining, and we need to like always find the good, because sometimes the reality is things suck and things are bad and hard. But I think it's important that like there are like resources out there. And I think this also links back to what my mom was discussing last week about finding your support groups. And a support group can look like your own thing. It can be unique. It can be a NAMI support group. It can be like to the book, or it can be finding your people in your little tribe and like taking the wisdom, the pearls of wisdom that you glean and what connects and with you, and using it to enhance your life, whatever that means to you.
Speaking of our tribes, I do want to take a moment to recognize Digimentors. As folks know, if you've been watching the show, Digimentors is the firm that I work with, that's led by a family friend of mine, Sri Srinivasan. But I bring it up because they support the show on a pro bono basis. And not only do they give me the time and space to produce the show, but also help promote it and amplify it and share it. And we often have a lot of colleagues who are watching the show. So I want to give a shout out to my friends at Digimentors. But as Claire is talking about books and holding up books on the screen, Dawn, I believe there's a book that you would like to show on the screen as well. Do you have it handy?
I do.
Yeah, it is.
This book will be coming out this weekend. It's called The Blue Flower Curtain, and it is written by me.
And if you look in the bottom corner.
So, yep, it says by Dawn Helmrich, and I'm very excited about it. Very excited about it. It's a long time in the making.
It's a long time coming, and we certainly, on our next show, we'll be able to share links for people to buy the book. It is, for folks who know, and we've talked about this on the show, but just as a trigger warning for folks, Dawn, 31 years ago, was violently assaulted and raped and left for dead. And it's something that she has turned, she has built off of that and become an advocate for, survivors of sexual assault. That's how she and I first connected. And, Dawn not just wrote a book about her experience, but actually went back through the court transcripts and a lot of raw material to put the book together. And I know over the last 2 years of doing this, that how challenging that was and how much it took out of you. But I just want to congratulate you for getting the book done, getting it printed, and being able to put your story out there as well. That's just incredible.
Thank you, Neil. Thank you so much. I'm very proud of it. It was a labor of love and a lot of tears.
Absolutely. I'm sure. Can't wait to see it. Can't wait to get my hands on a copy once it's out. It really can be cathartic to be able to write about something like that, to be able to go through that process. I'm curious in terms of, is it something that you were working on for a number of years and it just, kind of a slow process, or did you kind of reach a point where you were like, you know what, I can write about it now, and you just started working?
there's been about 6 different types of manuscripts for it, none of which felt right. And when I finally decided to write it as a novel rather than, you know, it's written like you would pick up a book in the nonfiction, and start reading it. And once I started doing that, so I kind of like separated myself from the story and just wrote about the story. Um, then it really started to flow and click for me. And then I thought I was done last year, and I had an editor edit all of it. And when I went back and read through it out loud with Jim, actually, I realized that there were some significant gaps that I needed to fill in. So I really wanted it to be released on the 30th anniversary, but I was not satisfied with it. And so it took me another year to really fill in those gaps. So it's been a long time coming.
Sure.
Yeah.
It's incredible. It's incredible.
Thank you.
Claire, in terms of if we're talking about artistic expression and using, whatever tools at your disposal to be able to tell your story, you've done a lot of online artistic work as well. You put together an interactive kind of story, or not quite a game.
I did.
But
Yeah,
is it a
I would
game,
call it an
actually?
interactive story. Yeah.
Interactive story, yeah. Can you tell us about that?
Sure. Yeah. So, in addition to being an artist, and I consider myself a writer, I also am a computer programmer. And there's a great program that allows you to kind of code and write and simultaneously create interactive stories called Twine. And so through Twine, I created this interactive story, kind of a simulation from one perspective of what it might be like to be in a psych ward or a psychiatric hospital. And so I do have a trigger warning at the top, and then this is a little image I made. So, and I have a little key that I made because TW might mean something to someone else, and I do recognize that. So, yeah, if there's a key, trigger warning, mental illness. If you're listening to this discussion, I think you're maybe can deal with that, but there are so not so in so it's also a work in progress is what I'm trying to say. So I haven't gotten to discussions of suicide yet. So if that is a topic that is a trigger for you, that's not going to come up in this little demo. But that is going to be integrated into the story for sure. So then there's a little about me. And then I also included a help hotline at the bottom because I thought that was important. A little crisis lifeline in case someone was really in danger and maybe they were Googling a certain thing just to find this game. This also was influenced. There is a game or simulation of sorts called Depression Quest, which is out there, which is similar in that it's like all text based and then you make decisions. And based on what you choose, the story will progress in a certain way. So if people are interested, Depression Quest is already out there. But this is kind of my take on it from maybe someone who enters a psych ward with bipolar disorder. Yes. And so as you can see, there's a little, and I chose admittance because you're being like admitted into the hospital, but also like you have kind of to admit to yourself, I have a problem. And then this is like really like very granular, but the A's are kind of highlighted in like the scarlet letter A. You kind of like, at least when I was first hospitalized, I kind of felt like I had an A on me. Like maybe I was marked for life that I've been hospitalized. So like there are like things you can kind of pick out of these like chapter images if you so choose. Yeah.
Sure. So let's just take a quick look.
Yeah.
So you enter the game. You're being admitted. Your name is called. Yes, that's me. The doctor is ready to see you now. So you kind of go through it, almost like a choose your own adventure.
Correct. Yeah, almost like a choose your own adventure to really kind of immerse you in it and to make you think of things like, for example, when you're in a psych ward, you're not given your cell phone. So like you only have, every person has maybe 1 or 2 numbers memorized, if that. So you're really reliant on the nurses to kind of, will they let you see your phone again? Will they not? Do you have to go to someone that you do have memorized to get other numbers? Like there are all these things that maybe you don't consider as being part of hospitalization, or the fact that you're really like in this maybe even one hallway at a 2 hallway realm and you're not really allowed to go outside. Like there are all these factors, I think, that sometimes if you're not in that environment, you don't realize are part of it, and can be really uncomfortable or like kind of take you off guard the first time you are hospitalized. So this is a way of kind of like simulation to kind of experience like what might this be like, and maybe spawn some empathy for those who are going through something like this.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So you're still there's still right now it's kind of one choice. You
Yeah.
ask to get your phone, you knock on the psychiatrist's door, and now you get to a decision point, right?
Mhm.
When you're meeting with the psychiatrist, you're taken back by how called the process is.
Yeah.
You tell the doctor that you made a mistake and want to go home, or you're here to get better and tell the truth.
Yeah.
Were you in this situation yourself?
I've never been in that quite a situation, but if you notice, no matter what choice you make here, it's an illusion of choice. No matter what, you're going to be hospitalized. It's just one way you're involuntarily hospitalized and one way you're voluntarily hospitalized. So yeah, if you make it, or in this way, they actually tell you, they're like, okay, well, we think we're going to put you on a hold. And then they're like, oh no, actually I changed my mind. You're right. I'll tell you the truth. But I have been in situations where I've been with therapists where I haven't felt like opening up to them per se. And I relate that to this decision. Yeah. So as you can see, it's much shorter if you tell the truth.
That's very interesting that would
Yeah, the illusion of
increase.
choice. I do, if I were to expand this simulation, this story, I would allow for different paths, maybe in the experience, especially in the psych unit. I do want to expand it to create where you can have a choice in the beginning, whether you're going to a hospital like in a rural area, a more rural area versus an urban area. Because for me, I've had I would say some more negative experiences in urban areas in particular. In city hospitals that maybe weren't as well funded. I've just had some negative experiences personally, where I just wasn't given the care that I was received other places. People weren't checking in on me as often. I didn't feel as heard, and it felt hard to get the help that I felt I needed. And I really, in the times like that, it was really lucky that I had an advocate like my mom on the outside, but not everyone is as lucky. Yeah.
It's a lot.
It's a lot, and it can be really heavy. But yeah, I hope to one day release that as a game of sorts in a more developed manner for sure.
It's great.
Really
shared the
cool.
link. I shared the link to the game in both Don's Facebook and my Facebook, and hopefully folks will have a chance if they want to check it out themselves.
Great.
They can. Every episode, we try and share some data around the topic that we're focusing on. Dawn, you were able to find do a little research for us. This is what you do. This is your jam, if you will. Let's check out some of what you found.
Yeah, so according to NAMI, for bipolar 1 and 2, people experience phases of illness. From main phases are the highs of hypomania, mania, and the lows of major depression, which, Claire, I think you did a great job of talking about that. Approximately 53% of people with both bipolar 1 can experience psychosis, in which a person loses touch with reality, often experiencing hallucinations and delusions, which I know, Claire, you said that you didn't have really that experience, but different experiences similar to what they're talking about. An estimated 40% of people with bipolar experience, I don't know how to say this word, anosognosia. Said anybody know what that is? Basically a lack of awareness of the symptoms, so not really putting the two and two together, or not getting diagnosed with bipolar disorder.
I think I can relate to that in just that, like, when you're in a manic episode, sometimes you don't even realize you're in it because you just feel like, oh, I'm grandiose, but like that's just because I'm meant to be this way. And it can be hard at times to decipher when you're in a certain state the difference between reality and that. And I think that's kind of where that tends to happen the most, where you're like you're denying help because you think you're fine, you know.
Yeah, and I want to add, I didn't put this on here, but I think that it's really important to note that NAMI also does say that, like, not everything about bipolar disorder is like gloom and doom, right? Like, a lot of times people with bipolar disorder have some really amazing, creative, very sharp talents. They can be very intelligent individuals. So they're, I think, Claire, you said it really well. Like, you aren't your disorder, right? Like, there's more to you than just that. I know that's what we're focused on today in this show, but I really like that Neil highlighted some of your art, because NAMI really talks about how there are some components to bipolar disorder that are not just this big gloom and doom.
Yeah, I totally agree.
Sure. I want to give a quick shout out to Apollo, who's joining us late from Philadelphia. He says, hope all are well. Glad to be here. Apollo, thank you for all of your support for the show. I know you've been a loyal viewer. You've logged on almost every episode, if not live, then I know you've been watching later as well. And so for anyone who joined us late, just a reminder that when we're done, the show will be available in just a few minutes on Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, YouTube, on my website. You can watch from the very beginning, and we'll share a snippet on Instagram as well, and give you a link to come back and watch the whole show. We do share resources every show. And stats. Speaking of NAMI, 1 in 5 adults suffer or have suffered from mental illness at some point in time. And your mom talked about NAMI the last time she was on 2 weeks ago, in terms of the resources and support groups they offer. If folks are interested, their hotline is 1-800-950-6264, 1-800-950-6264. We also share this piece from Mental Health America, which talks about how 18% of adults have a mental health condition, over 43 million Americans. And Mental Health America can be reached at mhanational.org. mhanational.org is their website. You can also call or text them if you want to reach out that way. Dawn, do you mind sharing the last slide, which we share every time?
Yes. So because Neil and I are both survivors of sexual assault, every 68 seconds an American is sexually assaulted. And that comes from RAIN, the Rape, Abuse, Incest National Network. And Neil, if you want to just give the phone number, that would be great.
Sure. The phone number for RAIN is 800-656-HOPE, 800-656-HOPE. That's their national sexual assault hotline. You can also reach their website at rain.org, RAINN.org. And it's always important. This is part of what we do in terms of having guests and talk about specific issues. We bring in a little data, and we also provide resources every episode. It's part of the combination of what makes the show so special. So with that, we're gonna ask Claire to take a moment and think about kind of what her final thoughts might be, how she would what she would want to leave the audience with, particularly if folks joined us late, or if they might watch just a snippet on social media later. We covered a lot of ground in terms of your experience with bipolar, and being able to talk about social media as well. So, Claire, the floor is yours.
Okay, thank you, Neil. I'm actually going to read the last paragraph of my blog post. I think that'll keep me on target. So I could sit here and recount every manic and depressive episode I've had, and I think we would be here a while. I, however, would be remiss if I did not recount what has been effective in combating my bipolar disorder symptoms, and that has been staying on top of my medication, especially in tumultuous times, keeping a diary card, going to therapy, and being as open and honest in that setting as I can be, leaning into my supports when I need them. I'm very lucky to have a supportive family who did not give up on me through the ups and especially the downs. I like my current therapist and psychiatrist, which I feel lucky to say because that has not always been the case for me, even. And I also want to say I hope that you can view those struggling with bipolar disorder or mental illness in general, or those who seek out psychiatric hospitalizations through an empathetic rather than judgmental lens. We're all here just trying our best. I remember once reading a tweet which read, "I'm embarrassed by everything I've ever said or done, but I can't shake the will to keep living." And I think about that tweet often, especially when a trigger or memory brings up something that I did during a manic episode or said, and it helps me to remain resilient. And I think it's great to just, if you can find those sayings or those things that are meaningful to you that can get you through hard times, and hold on to them, or your idols. For me, for example, like I mentioned, Maria Bamford, and just keep a collection of them, whether it's a box, a journal. And if you're going through a hard time, just opening to that page, or that memory and being like, oh yes, I've been here, I've struggled, but I can move past this.
That's really great. That's really great. I know you mentioned this in the pre-show, but Brene Brown is like one of those people for me that I just like, if I need to remind myself. She has a really, really amazing video about, it's a short 3-minute video about the difference between sympathy and empathy. And I actually have it in my blog post, I believe. Neil, is it in my blog post?
It
Yes.
is at the bottom of your blog post. Absolutely.
Yeah. And so that just reminded me when you said that, like, that's something that I go back to often if I'm struggling with, if I'm like upset or, annoyed with somebody I work with, or, something's going on, like that idea of giving people grace and understanding that, the center of attention isn't always you.
Yeah.
And you have to help remind yourself of that sometimes.
I think sometimes too, like for me, especially when this first happened with me posting to Facebook and everything, and I had all this shame, I didn't realize I was talking to someone. They're like, I didn't even notice you did that. And I was like, oh, we are also all in our own worlds. We all think about ourselves, and it's our own story we're telling ourselves. When sometimes like getting out of that, and I was like, so you just missed all of that happened on Facebook. And they're like, yeah. And I was like, whoa, I thought I would have to apologize to you. I thought this, I thought that. I thought you would think this about me. And I was not on their radar. And that was so relieving, Yeah.
Yeah.
Dawn, I shared the link directly to that YouTube video that you mentioned. So if people are interested, and I do want to bring in Kate, says, I can't thank you enough. I learned so much. So Kate, thank you. And Dawn, Susan is asking about your book. She may have caught the tail end of the conversation. When will that be available for purchase? Any guesses? Any hopes?
Hopefully by Sunday.
Hopefully by Sunday. So
yep.
we will see, and we'll certainly for the next show that we do, we will certainly promote it. Why don't you go ahead and hold that up again, Dawn, so folks can see the cover at least, because it's the blue flower curtain, and it's just a phenomenal work that you've done to pull this together and to share that story. So I'm looking forward to reading it. I'm looking forward to telling people about it. And I know that my mom said earlier that she is proud of you, and that after reading it, she'll be able to tell people that she knows the author, which is nice. And Susan says that her daughter, she and her daughter can't wait for the book. Susan
great.
Backfire Dufour. Is Susan a friend of yours? In
yes,
Milwaukee?
we went to high school together.
That's great. Thank you, Susan, for watching. Once again, thanks everyone for joining. Our next show, we usually are on the second and fourth Thursdays of the month. We're pushing back our next show by a week just because of scheduling. But I am thrilled that Stephen Berbecco is going to be our guest. So he is the director of the United Way of Northwest Vermont's mental health initiative. And he'll be talking about the advocacy work that he does. But more importantly, Stephen is a friend of mine that I can trace back not only to high school, but also to college. And we have a ton of mutual friends. I got to see him when I was in Vermont a few months ago. And Dawn and I both worked. Dawn still works with the United Way of Waukesha and Greater Milwaukee, or Greater Waukesha.
United Way of Greater Milwaukee and Waukesha County.
Greater Milwaukee and Waukesha County. I can't believe I missed. Oh, please don't tell people. Don't tell my friends that I got that wrong. And of course, I worked at United Way locally in Washington State for 4 years, and then at their national office for 5 years. So this is going to be really exciting for us to bring on a colleague to talk about the work that United Way is doing. I know that your United Way also does a lot of mental health advocacy work, Dawn.
Yep.
So we'll have a lot to talk about in that show. And please,
I do have breaking news.
My
My book is currently, as of this moment, available on Amazon Kindle. So you can get it. You can get it online.
It's there
as of this moment. It's there as of this moment.
Well, let's hold. First of all, shut the front door. As
I can't believe it. I just looked it up and it's live. It's live.
And
I clicked on it and it's live on Kindle.
I'm looking for it.
Amazon Kindle.
You got a link you can let's see if I can.
Well, I don't want to belabor it, but
I'm going to belabor it. I'm going to find that book. No, we're going to find that book and put it in the we can take a few extra minutes to do this.
We'll find it and we'll find it and put it in there.
We'll email it out to folks. This is exciting. Absolutely. So once again, Claire, thank you for joining us. Thank you for sharing your story, and continued strength as I think the book, the inscription in the book that you got, you mentioned, hopefully you won't be in the hospital again, but if you are, that's okay because you'll get through it. Just such wisdom.
Thank you.
We'll see everyone. So I didn't mention the date. So we're pushing back that show instead of I didn't change the date on the card, but it's October 17th that Stephen will be joining us. Thursday, October 17th. So hopefully you will be able to watch us then. Have a great night, everyone, and we'll see you soon.